It's been a little while since we've taken a look at making an axe, so let's look at making this little bearded camp axe today. This video is sponsored by DeWalt and the new line of atomic grinders. I think I've got some materials that'll work for this little axe. I have a piece of plate that was cut off. This is a chunk of 3/4 inch plate that we used for some other project around here. And it's a little bit over 1.5 inches wide, about 1 5/8 wide. So what is that, 20 millimeters by about 40 millimeters. And I have a chunk of leaf spring that is 1 3/4 inches wide. So that's about 45 millimeters wide. And it's about 3/8 of an inch thick, so roughly 10 millimeters thick. So the first thing we need to do is cut our materials to length. And we'll put the new DeWalt grinders to work while we do that. Don't forget to put on your safety glasses. To get a good axe, you really need to work on getting the eye centered and symmetrical. Makes a big difference in how the axe looks. It'll still function as long as you have a good hard cutting edge, even if the eye is off center. But you're going to be a lot happier with what you do if you get a good centered eye. So I'm going to take the time and lay this out very carefully. When we create the eye, I'm going to use a slitting chisel. I'm going to put a little bit of a groove in there to index the chisel. And that will help guarantee our results. A little bit of die chem on there gives me something I can get a good line into. So I'm going to allow 3/4 of an inch for the pull of the axe, and then make my index groove the width of the chisel. I like the light around there. That's pretty cool. So while this is still cool and nice and rectangular, we haven't started making it misshapen by working on it, I'm going to also lay out the cutting edge, and we're going to cut that in using the cut-off disc on the angle grinder. And that gives us a really good place to forge weld in the leaf spring that's going to form the cutting edge. This is mild steel. We need something that will be hardenable, and that's the leaf spring. Now you could certainly do this hot with a chisel. That's the way I did my first axes. You get a little bit more reliable results if you go ahead and let yourself use modern tools like an angle grinder or bandsaw to cut that slit. As your experience grows, then you can go on to using chisels, hot cuts, things like that, and you'll be better able to judge what a straight cut is. I should have done this layout while I was doing the other layout. I need to thin the corners of the axe body where it's going to join with the high carbon cutting edge. Since this is already mostly cooled off, I'm just going to go ahead and do that with a grinder. By thinning this out, it makes for a much smoother, much better transition in the weld. That's because this got too hot. I need to cut all of that damaged area off and get back into good steel. There's no saving that part of the leaf spring. Now, burning off that little bit of tool steel on the axe is unfortunate, but that does not completely ruin the project. I think we can save this. It might not look quite like I thought it was going to, but we shouldn't be lost. But while that cools in the vermiculite, this is a perfect opportunity to thank DeWalt for sponsoring today's video and sending out their new line of atomic grinders to take a look at. As I make this video, these still are not available for purchase. Going to be coming out very soon. The 4-inch angle grinder is the more compact of the two angle grinders. It is definitely meant for getting into smaller places. It does not have a side handle on it, which is going to take a little getting used to. But a lot of people take the side handles off just to get into tight places. It has a 3/8 threaded spindle on it that will take 3/8 arbor discs. But the flange on this is reversible so that it will also fit 5/8 arbor discs. And there is another flange nut stored right here on the grinder where you're less likely to lose it. And that thing goes with the 5/8 discs. So this takes either 3/8 or 5/8 arbor discs. This has a spindle lock that is easy to operate. Instead of one of these things, you gotta use the tip of your finger to push the button in. It's a nice large button over here on the side, easy to work with. Comes with a wrench for changing the accessories. It's a braking grinder, so when you let go of the trigger, it stops very quickly, and it's anti-rotation, so this doesn't want to torque in your hand like some grinders do. Its big brother, not much bigger in size, has the typical 5/8 threaded spindle on it. So this takes 5/8 and 7/8 arbor discs or flap discs, grinding wheels, wire brushes, all that kind of stuff, and threaded spindle thing. So if you have 5/8 accessories with a threaded fitting on it, which is what's on here right now, this will take all of those. Of course, this has the side handle, a little bit bigger grinder, and it has a quick change nut on it, so you don't have to use tools if you have this nut on there, but it does have provisions for a tool if it gets stuck on there, so you don't have to use vice grips or channel lock, something like that to get the nut back off. You can put a wrench on there. Again, it's a braking grinder with anti-rotation technology, so it's a lot safer to use than some of the old grinders that are out there. Now, the other two tools in this set are die grinders. There's a straight die grinder, which is this tool here, and there will be an angled die grinder. Those are out of stock when they sent me these tools to try out, so I don't have one of those to look at yet, but they are going to send one, and we will take a look at one of those in a future video. All of these use DeWalt's 20-volt max battery system, so they're good, powerful tools. This grinder is about twice as powerful as the competitor's 12-volt model, which is almost exactly the same size. I have that other die grinder with a similar size batteries. They both are the exact same length, both have about the same grip diameter. The only difference is the 20-volt battery takes up a little bit more space, but it's twice as powerful. Variable speed, there's a variable speed selector here. You get 4 different set speeds on this, so you've got a lot of options in using this. Again, nice big button for changing tools, so I can easily see this becoming my absolute favorite die grinder in the shop, although the right angle grinder might be a big competitor for it, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that right angle grinder as well. And as soon as I hear about when the release date is, when these are available to buy, I'll make sure to add that information in the video description and in a pinned comment. So thanks again, DeWalt. I really appreciate you sending these out. We're going to get back to the video and see if we can save that axe. Well, this axe definitely still needs more work. It's going to need more forging. It's kind of thick in here. But I think my original thought to have this long beard starts to kind of go away because it's now such a thin beard. I think that just looks a little bit funny. So I think I'm going to trim some of this off, going to grind the profile a little bit, clean some of this up in here, and get the profile in a little bit better condition. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to draw this out through here, and that'll make the axe just a little bit longer and should have a better look to it. To draw this out, I'm working with a diagonal peen hammer. This is something I made years ago from an old 4-pound sledgehammer. One side is ideal for drawing material out lengthwise, and the other side of the hammer is ideal for spreading side to side. This makes pretty fast work of this, and you can get by without a power hammer if you don't have one. I'm going to go ahead and bring this back up to heat and then let it air cool and normalize before I do any more grinding. With the axe cool from normalizing, it's time to do the final grinding on this. I'm going to start with the eye. It's just a little bit crooked, not bad. If you make the handle and address that as you fit the handle, you can solve this problem without doing any grinding in the eye. But I really think it looks better if you get the eye as symmetrical as possible, just for the aesthetic purposes. So there's a few places I need to get in there, and a die grinder with a carbide burr is a wonderful tool for this. The mild steel grinds pretty easily. And I could actually do this after it's hardened and tempered if I needed to, because this part of the axe will never harden. It's just the cutting edge right through here that will harden when we get to the hardening and tempering process. This doesn't require a real high heat to be hardened, just a little bit above the point that it loses magnetism. That's in the cherry red to a very dull orange. I'm going to work on getting this close to sharp using the angle grinder. A lot of people don't like using an angle grinder in this situation because it is easy to overheat the blade and soften this further than you might want to. But if you go slow, you don't lean into it real hard and use a fresh sharp disc, you should be okay. Check it often for heat, cool it if you need to. Alternately, you could use a belt grinder running at a slower speed, or do it all by hand with a file. An axe should be soft enough to cut with a file. You don't want these too hard or they might chip in use. Well, this ends up being a nice sized little camp axe, not real heavy, but perfectly capable of splitting kindling wood, chopping small branches, things like that. The handle I use is actually a rigging axe handle, and way back when I made my very first axe, for some reason that's what I decided to go with, and that's when I made the drift that we used for the final eye shape, so it's a perfect match for that. But if you're making your own drift before you make the axe, make the drift fit the handle you want to use. Anyways, this will be a good little axe. I'm actually going to keep it here in the shop because I often start my coal fire with kindling wood, and I've got the wood stove as winter comes on that I use a lot of kindling wood in. So it's nice to have a little axe like this just dedicated to the shop. I want to thank each and every one of you for taking your time to watch today's video, and I want to thank DeWalt Tools for helping support the channel by sponsoring today's video and for sending out the atomic angle grinders and the die grinder. But for now, I hope you have time in your day to get out to your shop, make something, have fun, stay safe, wear your safety glasses. We'll see you for the next video.